Hey everybody, it's Dr. May. So I was thinking about the topic of change and transition, which is also, one of the difficult topics that we have to face in our own life. And I wanted to present kind of a metaphor of a door to help us reflect upon the process of change. So I got some of this material from a book called Open the Door, and I'll tell you more about that at the end, what the resource is. But I want to share the concept with you because I really kind of like it. And I think it kind of, sometimes we respond really well to a metaphor and it clarifies things in a way that we can't just clarify in just regular language. So I have some visuals for us, and I also have some, more details of this metaphor that might help. Okay, so I'm calling this Open the Door, a reflection on change and transition. Okay, so I want us to think about the door as kind of like the symbol of change and transition, right? So let's say there's two sides of the door, right? So the side that we're on right now is kind of like the old, okay, or the present, or the past, or whatever we're currently living in, right? And there's also an unknown future that's on the other side of the door, and that's a symbol of the new, right? And there's a lot of uncertainty on that other side of the door. We might have a sense of what could be there. Maybe we look through the window of the door, but we never really experienced life on that other side, perhaps, right? So we're a little uncertain about it. Should we open the door? Should we keep it locked, right? There's a lot of concerns, perhaps, right? So I want you to just start out by reflecting on right now. What's on the current side of your door? And what are you moving toward on the other side of your door? Like the other side might contain some ideas about goals you have. Like let's say you have a goal about recovery and what your life is supposed to look like as you work toward your recovery, right? Or maybe you're about to make a change, such as getting into or out of a relationship, or maybe starting a new job, or quitting a job, or moving to a new place, right? So there's another world on the other side of the door that you have hints about, but it's still like you haven't been there yet, right? So it's a little bit tricky, okay? So let's just keep some of that in mind as we go forward. Okay, so we also have, in addition to like the external things going on in our life, there's also more subtle internal doors that we have to work on opening sometimes, right? So sometimes we have a lot of vulnerability locked in our heart, right? A lot of hurt, a lot of pain, a lot of, negative experiences, right? And so one of the doors we might be working on opening is letting our guard down a little bit and opening our heart a little bit more, right? How do we let in a little bit more and express a little bit more, right? That might be a scary prospect, especially if we've been hurt before. Sometimes we also are very guarded about the ideas we have and the beliefs we hold, right? We might be used to thinking about things a certain way, which creates a sense of certainty in our life. But sometimes we have to practice opening our mind to let in new ideas. And that can make us feel vulnerable too, right? It could shake our whole world to let in a new belief, especially if we've been thinking the same thing for a while. But a lot of times, in the course of our personal growth, we have to learn how to see things in different ways and process things in different ways. So the opening the mind is really important. In DBT, they'll probably refer to that as willingness, right? Are we willing to open the door to other things that we don't already think? Okay. Other times, another thing we have to open is our mouth. We might be scared to speak our truth. We might be scared to express ourselves and our needs and our wants to other people. We might be scared to tell someone something that might make them mad at us. Maybe we're unhappy with something they did, but we're scared to say it, right? So that self-expression is that mouth is another door that needs to open sometimes in order for us to live a better life and be more fulfilled, okay? Other times, we want to open our arms to welcome life, opportunities, and people, right? So with open arms, it's a symbol of, I'm getting ready to hug or embrace somebody, right? So there's things in our life we might want to learn how to embrace. There's people we may want to learn how to let into our heart and into our arms, right? Symbolically embrace them, okay? And maybe, allow ourselves to have a little bit more closeness and intimacy than we're used to. And that takes some courage, right? Other times it could be symbolized by opening our hands to give and receive, right? And giving and receiving is also another challenge in relationships. What do I want to let out and what do I want to take in? Okay. And all that is through the barrier of a symbolic door. Okay. So see how this is working? Right. So think about for yourself, what in these areas do you have to work on? What are the specifics for you? Okay. You journal about that perhaps. Okay. So other door symbolism. So if you think about it, when you lock the door of your house, the door is a barrier, right? And it separates what's on the two different sides. As we were kind of hinting with the initial door picture, that kind of was this way, right? There's a one inside and there's an outside, right? It symbolizes protection and safety. Like if I had a house with no door on it, I may not feel safe because anyone could just walk in, right? So I need a door to close and to lock to keep me safe and to preserve my privacy. So when you're a teenager, especially, you want to make sure your bedroom door has a lock on it and can close because you need that private time just to kind of incubate and become yourself, right? On the other hand, if someone else locks you in, a door could feel very restrictive. Like if you go to jail and they lock the door on you, or if you're in a psychiatric hospital and they lock the door, it could prevent you from having freedom, right? You feel locked in. And sometimes we feel that way in our life. And sometimes we're the ones that lock us in. We create our own doors with locks and we restrict ourselves because we're trying to keep ourselves safe, but yet we also keep ourselves limited, okay? A door could also be a sign of resistance, especially if it's a big, thick door. Maybe I feel like I can't get through that door to the other side of my change, right? Or someone's keeping me in and I can't get out, right? It's this, I might have to resist to get through that door. Might be a lot of locks on the door, okay? Yet the door is not like a wall, right? Because a wall you can't really get through unless you have like a jackhammer or something like that. You're doing a demolition. But a door, by nature, can open, right? So the separation, the barrier, is supposed to have some control over that, right? So I'm supposed to, ideally, be able to keep that barrier when I need it, keep the protection, the safety as necessary, but also learn how to open it as well, right? So when I could flexibly open and close my door, separating the current from the future, separating from the inside from the outside, right? Me from other people, it kind of allows for more flexibility and better transition, right? Allows me to move forward and backward, right? Maybe I want to take a step toward change and then take a step back to recover a little bit, right? So maybe it's necessary to have some movement back and forth. I'm not just going to cross the threshold once and be done, right? It's also an exit and an entrance, right? So I'm entering something new, but I might also be exiting something old, okay? A lot of different ways to think about it. Okay, another image to think about, like if you were to draw a door, right? Your own image of it, what would your door look like? Okay, would it be a screen door where you could leave it closed, but there's some movement in and out? A swinging door where maybe it's very easy to come in and out and anyone could come in and out? Would it be maybe like a thick or a heavy door where it looks almost like no one's going to be able to get through this thing, like it's a big, thick iron door, like on a castle? Or maybe a revolving door. Maybe this constant change is constant in and out. There's people walking in and out that you can't control, or other changes that float in and out of your life that you can't control. Or maybe you take forward and backward steps a lot, so you're kind of revolving in and out, right? Is it unlocked and accessible? Can you even open it, or is it might as well just be a wall, right? Do you feel like it's possible to unlock the door and get through it? Or does it feel like the change is so impossible, it's never going to happen? Are there any signs on the door? Ever be a teenager and put like signs on the door, like messages to other people? Come in, get out, knock first. If you had signs on your door, what would they say? Or if there was a decoration on your door, what would it be? Okay, some people hang a wreath on their door for some decoration. Other people, it's a very plain door. Okay, so what does your door look like? And what does that mean for you? Other times, you could consider, is it unlocked or is it locked? Is it strong locks? Is it like bolts? Is it like all kinds of security features because you need that safety? Maybe that's what you need right now. You don't want the door to be unlocked yet. Okay, so creating a feeling of safety might be part of it. Okay, so think of all these things. How does this factor into you and your openness or closed nature, or your willingness to move forward to change, or your ability to move forward and back? Okay. All right, here's another feature too you might consider as a physical aspect of the door. Is it a wide door where it's very easy for you or anyone to walk through, or maybe multiple people to walk through back and forth? Or is it a narrow door where it's harder to get through, like that narrow path? The I forgot the phrase, but like, you know, the path that hardly anyone takes because it's difficult, right? Maybe a narrow door is a challenge. It's hard to cross that barrier because it's not easy, right? Whereas a wide door is a decision that's super easy, that maybe an impulsive decision. Yeah, I could just cross over to that side, but maybe it's not a great decision. The narrow door might be the hard decision. Okay. All right. Okay, so locks and keys, doing a little of that. So if you need a lot of locks, maybe it's a sign of resistance and fear, right? Preventing the other side from leaking through. But keys could be a sign of being able to access the other side, being able to get to that change. Maybe signs of willingness, faith, trust, forgiveness, courage, right? I'm able to move through that transition, okay? Allow the door to be opened. Okay, another metaphor you could think of is there someone knocking at your door or some symbolic thing knocking at your door? Like when they say opportunity knocks, right? Is there change that's beckoning you? Or is your wise mind knocking at your door, or your intuition telling you there's something you need to explore? There's something you need to look at that you're not looking at, right? Maybe there's some kind of insight that's begging for your attention, or some kind of inner need that wants to get through to your consciousness, right? Are you willing to look? Are you willing to open that door to hear the knock, right? Or are we totally scared and we're just going to hide on the other side? Okay. And are there other times where you knock at the door? You want to bang that door open and move across to the other side. And if you knock, are you knocking really hard or are you knocking timidly? You know, what is that saying about your willingness to move forward, your willingness to change, or your fear about it, right? And do you selectively knock on some doors, or do you knock on every door you see just trying to get someone to open it? Right? Is it kind of like Halloween time where you knock on every door on the block, just hoping someone's going to open it and give you candy? Or do you pick like just the most select house because you want that particular opportunity, right? How selective are we with what we want in our future? It's another thing to think about, right? Another thing, slipping messages under the door. Are we, you know, kind of as a transition point to change, instead of fully opening it, kind of passing messages back and forth between our past and our future, trying to get some ideas about what's on the other side? Or maybe there's a window on the other side so we could just take a peek, right? And what kind of messages would come back and forth? And what kind of messages would you want slipped to you? What would you want to know about the other side? Maybe symbolically, the message would be hearing from people on the other side of that door who have made the change already, who could tell you what it's like, okay? What was it like for you going to your recovery? What was it like for you to break up with your significant other? What was it like for you to move across the country, right? Maybe someone else could tell you by slipping a message under the door before you make the change, what it was like, so you feel more comfortable opening the door when the time comes, okay? Interesting, right? Okay, then there's other times, well, let's say we finally open the door. And now we didn't walk all the way through yet. We're kind of checking it out. Maybe we're standing on the threshold, right? We're kind of between two worlds. We're between the old and the new. We're still able to move back to the old if we want to, but we're glancing into the new territory. We're starting to make the transition. Maybe we could kind of like have pieces of both operating in our life as we move through. Sometimes we're shoved through the door. We have no chance to make a transition like this, but other times we can kind of check it out slowly, right? And it kind of gives us an opportunity to gather a little bit more trust or clarity or courage to walk all the way through the door. Sometimes we need that a little extra time and you know, strength, right? Okay. And finally, when we finally get to it, we walk through the door, right? We completely made the change. We moved from the old to the new. We moved into some brand new territory. We're there, right? We did it. And it involves letting go right? Involves perhaps grieving the past, because there's a gain as well as a loss, right? And it's being able to embrace that change, being able to open our heart to the uncertainty, okay? But sometimes necessary and also worth it, okay? So finally, I just wanted to share this resource with you. I got a lot of these metaphors from a book called Open the Door, A Journey to the True Self by Joyce Rupp. Okay, so kind of an interesting spiritual type of book in case you want to check it out. All right, so hope you like that little metaphor. Just figured I'd share. Thanks for listening, and talk to you next time. All right, bye everybody.